We are now back in open session, and with no other business to come before the Committee of the Whole, we are adjourned at 5:27.
364, a resolution approving and adopting the Summit County cybersecurity policy and confirming the applicability and confidentiality provisions under Section 9.64E of the Ohio Revised Code for the Office of Information Technology and declaring it an emergency.
Stephen Byrne, Office of Information Technology. So this is approving the cybersecurity plan that we talked about.
Council questions? Committee, go ahead. Oh, you already moved it. No, nobody have any questions? Okay. Ms. Hyatt moves on 2025-364. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks.
Next item is 2026-009, a resolution adopting the capital improvement budget for 2026 through 2031 for the County of Summit and appropriating the funds as set forth in Exhibit A for the balance of projects in 2026 capital improvement plan for the Executive Department of Finance and Budget and declaring it an emergency.
Good evening, Council. So you should have a copy of the capital improvement budget book there in front of you. There's a lot of information inside this book, but just please remember that all of these projects are going to come back before you as they go through the purchasing process or the bid process. So you'll see these all again. If you want to flip forward to page 8 in that book, this gives us a nice summary of the sources and uses in this year's request. The 2026 request is just a little over $87 million. The legislation we have for you to pass on the 26th, we are asking to appropriate $39 million of that 87. On the next page there, you can see the sources of funding and how we try to leverage our local dollars with dollars from all these different sources that are listed. And then on the next page, you can see how we spend that money. If you take a look at those percentages, 70% of the request that we have for you this year is for sanitary sewer, road and bridge improvements, and regional stormwater, and then another 24% is for facility improvements. And now we'll take a look through the individual projects. Starting on page 11, we have facility improvements. There are a couple that I'll point out and have folks talk to you on. But if you have any questions on any of these projects that are listed here, we do have folks from each department represented in the audience tonight that can come up and talk about their individual requests. Excuse me. So the first one that we wanted to point out specifically was the additional budget for the Ohio building renovations. And Brian and Joe are both here to talk a little bit about the additional dollars that we need and what they're for. Oh, it's on page 14, sorry.
Yeah. And I'm going to let Joe, one thing before we get to that, on page 13, you'll find under medical examiner, the garage storage for $600,000. That was resolution 2026-007 that you guys approved the bid for tonight. Ohio building. So a number of things, and I'll just give you the big general buckets of what makes up this $2.5 million, and I'm going to let Joe kind of give you an update on where the project stands overall, things that are going on in it. There's a handful of large items that make up this $2.5 million. It's the moving expenses, the costs for moving all of the departments out of the Ohio building. One of the biggest of those items being the recent lease over at Cascade for fiscal office that you approved in December to set up the tax collections over at Cascade 1 is one of the bigger items in that bucket. The lead remediation contracts that you guys approved this year is another one of the large change orders that came about with this project. There is, and I don't know how much of this has gone, I don't know if we've gotten to the point with K Company yet on the duct work. and I'll let Joe describe the ductwork, but long story short, we came across a lot of old ductwork that doesn't meet current building code that needs to be changed out at a significant cost. The single biggest item, which is also something you approved in December, while everybody's out of the building and with all the problems we've had with the elevators, we decided to go forward with an elevator. It's almost a replacement, like pretty much everything except the cars, and the cars themselves are going to be refurbished along with the security stuff that's being added. That piece alone was about $1 million of what makes up this $2.5 million. And as we continue to go, we continue to find things here and there, like an office that got missed that we've now added in, carpeting and paint for that office. With that, Joe, why don't you take it from there and give an update on, and let's talk too about the 7th floor and where council space currently stands.
I'll finish with that. Again, Joe Eckenrode with Physical Plants. Overall, the project is moving forward. As we know from the original schedule, we are a few months behind. How we move people back, I think we'll move them all back at once. So when we get back in there, the date is to be determined, but it will be 2026. It will be in 26. So as we moved through the building, it started out as an HVAC and finishes project. It's evolved over the past 4 years to the point where we're finding stuff above the ceilings that we've removed, such as the ductwork, that were old lines, flex lines. They were deteriorated to the point where we need to replace new ductwork. Whenever you get in a ceiling, you run into environmental issues. Like Brian said, we were here once already for the lead paint stabilization. As we move through, when we encounter stuff as pipe wrap, asbestos mastic, we've been remediating it, cleaning it up. That's a considerable amount of change that we're looking forward to. As he mentioned, the elevator is like $1.2 million. But where are we at with the project? 3, 4, and 7 are looking real good. 80% of the flooring is down on floor 3. We're moving to 4. A lot of the flooring's down on 7. It's about 80% painted on most of them floors, but the final coat is still to come. We have 3 of the air handling units out of the 8 that we're replacing already installed. 4 heat exchangers out of the 7 are also installed. The B building, the bathrooms are all tiled in the B building. We're currently demoing the ones on the north side, the A building, and the bathrooms are moving forward. How about the 7th floor, since that's where you all reside? The heat exchanger is replaced on that floor. The ceilings are complete. They're starting to put the pads in. Again, the painting's done, probably 80%. We just got to put the final coat on. And the tile is done in those bathrooms also. Like Brian said, you know, we got into this project and we're finding a lot of things above ceiling that we were unaware of when we started. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you might have on a certain area of the building. Yes.
It's over 100
Yes.
years old now.
Yeah. So the first 3 floors of the A building, which is the building you're in, the 8th floor building, that was built in 1914. Then it was added to over the years to get to the point we are now. It was originally the B building was built and it connected, and then floors were built onto the A building, like in the 20s. So the building's going to be in much better shape when we leave there. I mean, all new mechanicals, modernized elevator on both the parking deck and also in the A building. You know, pretty much all the environmental hazards are going to be handled, or they're, you know, there may be a little bit left over in areas we didn't touch, but yeah, pretty much all of them have been addressed. So, you know, I think we're good for the next 50 years as far as, you know, my point.
Well, and that's
Finishes.
one thing that continues to come up. So the county bought the building in 76, 77. The county spent about $7 million between acquisition and the improvements it made at that time. We're sitting here 50 years later, and we're spending a little over double that amount, but we haven't done anything substantive in 50 years in that building. So when we come across things and there's a question of should we do it, the answer is generally, well, it's probably 50 years more before something happens here again. So we just need to take care of, and that happened with the parking garage too, as we got into it. I will tell you also, and I don't know for sure if there's enough money in the budget. We may be back. As part of this whole process, when we went down and looked at Cascade and met with Pleasant Valley, who was the entity that bought Cascade One from the land bank / DFA, as we went through that whole process, they also had acquired the First Energy building. First Energy left that, when they left that building, they left everything. I mean, everything in that building. And they took us on a tour of the First Energy building, and I would tell you, it's extremely nice. It's nice to the point where, because he was offering us to put fiscal either there or at PNC, the PNC One Cascade, and my reaction was, well, there's no way we could go collect taxes in this building. It would be rubbing taxpayers' noses in the dirt to come in something this nice and pay their taxes. But that all of the furnishings are in that building, and those used furnishings that he now owns, and he has floors full of cubicles and furnishings that they want to get rid of. Holly was like, we'll take it. And so we have been working with them. They provided the furnishings that were moved over to PNC for the fiscal office to set up there. Those furnishings are then going to come on over to the Ohio building, but we're going through on a floor-by-floor basis looking at the needs for the Ohio building and what they have on these floors, because they kind of want us to basically empty out whole floors before we move on to another floor. So we're trying to put that jigsaw puzzle together. But we may be back to you with the request to buy used furniture that Gino is pricing it at 20 cents on the dollar, that is far nicer than any new furniture we could ever afford to buy, or ever would go out and buy. So that process is getting going now that we're into the new year. So I'm hoping there's enough in this budget, but maybe not. We'll see. Sarah
I mean,
just keeps
not to
shooting daggers at me. So we would like to
stick a needle in it, but didn't our tax dollars technically pay for that furniture already? Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, over at First Energy.
Yeah.
We might as well put it to good use. That's all I can say. Last thing I would say, if any of you want to come over and take a tour through the building, get a hold of me, Greta, Joe, any of us. Happy to have you guys come over anytime and take a walk through. It is kind of interesting to see. I didn't realize Council Chambers used to be a basketball gymnasium, but you can clearly see it with the hardwood floor and the ceilings out, and
There also used to be a bowling alley there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting process, that project in particular. Sarah, with that, you can have your mic back.
But Oh, excuse me. I am there every day, so anybody wants to come through, reach out. I'll be more than willing to take you through, show you where we're at. And if there's any other questions, I'll be around. Or
You got hard hats, Joe?
we do have hard hats, yes.
Okay, the next one I wanted to point out for you all on facility improvements is the pre-intake and Sallyport expansion project. Again, Brian and Joe can speak to this. We also have representatives from the sheriff's office here.
And council did already approve a grant we got from the Attorney General's office, which was just under $4 million. There's a $984,000 match to that grant that's in here. That is currently under design.
So yeah, we got the RFQs back. It looks like we're going to get Welty and Haas and Staub under contract. They're the same company that did the BOE here. They came back with the best proposal. We're working through some details, but it looks like that project's moving in
And
that
that will
direction.
be a design-build project.
That's correct.
So the total for facility improvements is 21 million. If there's any other questions on any of those other projects.
Can I just ask on the safety building, is that the same building as Akron Police or is that separate?
Yes, the safety building and the Stubbs buildings are connected as one building. The 7th floor side is where what the county occupies. Again, that building, that was built, I believe, in 1957, but there's many of the same things that we're dealing with in the Ohio building are present at the safety building. Number one being the HVAC equipment. There's a lot of older stuff for the upper floors that I don't know where we're at with the time frame of doing the whole project, but some of the stuff's to the point where I might be back here for an emergency to replace.
Yes, so, yeah, and we're meeting with Akron next week to start discussions on potentially a joint project. So when we originally, looked at this Board of Elections space and the need to move the Board of Elections, one of the things that we discussed the board, because the board wanted us to go out and acquire property somewhere. We obviously had this space that for years we've been looking along with the land bank for something to do with. One of the things that kind of convinced the board this was the right direction was the cascade effect. So they vacated Grant Street. The next project that will get underway after the Ohio building project is renovating those Grant Street facilities. With the initial plan right now, and we have a meeting coming up on this, is that the building department will leave Talmadge Avenue and move over to Grant Street, so building standards would be over there. And then the sheriff's office, going back to, 2007, we had an architect who actually had designs to build a sheriff's administration building for us. And then when the Great Recession hit, shelved all that. The main building, the headquarters building for the Board of Elections, we're looking at standing up a sheriff's administration building over there with the idea that probably not all of the sheriff's staff that's in the safety building will be able to fit over there, but the idea of moving the top law brass, high law, I guess you call it. Is that right, Bill? Bill's high law, he knows. But creating an administration building, moving folks out of the safety building, which would then free up space. And you guys have heard for years about the prosecutor's office and how they're piled on top of each other with no place to go. The idea would then be going through the safety building and beginning the process of rehabbing that building, which hasn't been done since it was originally built. But now the conversation with the city about Stubbs and our safety building and how we might create a joint use. And so it could be potentially swapping floors in those two buildings. But it seems to me to make sense that if we're going to have a buck hoist and cranes and all that over there. We should be working on that entire complex of those two buildings together. So we continue, as you'll see on the 26th, we go through financials, socking money away for these projects that are coming up as part of our year-end process as well.
And the Grant Street renovations and the safety building renovations are both on the 2026 capital plan for the design phases. So once we get a little farther into that, we'll have more information to share, better numbers. But that's where we're at for 2026 for those two.
And the dollars that are in here, even for when you look at the back section of future years, they're swags. We don't know
Yeah.
yet for sure what those are going
They're
to cost.
Brian,
placeholders.
on this whole project, what we've heard for a long time is that the safety building and the Stubbs building are just out of date, breaking down, people getting stuck in elevators, all of that stuff. As you go through this design phase, can you guarantee us that redoing that existing building is less expensive than taking it down, building a new one on that site or some other site brand new? Because just what we've gone through with the Ohio building, from what we thought it was going to be to where it is now, and I'm glad we're doing it because we needed to do it.
Yeah.
But if that's the case with that Ohio building, it's definitely going to be the case with that safety building and the Stubbs building. So there's not been enough discussion, my opinion, of which of the two is the best to go about. I'm not interested in the quickest answer as much as what makes the most sense financially and long term. Because if you're just putting lipstick on a pig, we're going to be, maybe not us at this days, but in a few decades, they're going to be right back at it at a higher cost, and nothing's really going to get resolved. And for us, the thing that I would hope that we keep in mind is the recruitment process for the ladies and gentlemen that serve us on the safety forces, because to say to them that we're going to give you a state-of-the-art facility, and that doesn't materialize, and then what they have is something that, again, lipstick on a pig, that tells them in their recruiting process exactly what we think about the recruitment process. We need to be first rate all the way across this process if we're going to capture and retain the best and the brightest for safety forces.
I would tell you this, generally speaking, when you look at the Ohio Building Project, for instance, the reality is most of what we're doing in that building, obviously the HVAC, curing some of the structural things that are there, but it's fairly cosmetic. The cost of building a new Ohio building would be astronomically higher than what we're doing right now in the Ohio building. The other thing I've heard from developers consistently for the last several years is that the cost of renovating, because I've asked this question on other projects, like I remember what the last one I asked about was. The cost of rehabbing and renovating is right now far cheaper than building new, and that seems to be what developers are far more interested in, which is why you see Welty redoing the city center building, and Pleasant Valley interested in Cascade and First Energy and looking at residential housing in those facilities. So I think when you get into, particularly in a downtown area with the, we all saw how long it took just to redo Main Street with all those vaults and all that stuff underground. I think the cost, and certainly we can go through that with the city and with the architects that we bring on board, but I'm not so sure that for what we're spending on these buildings, we could build new for at this point. Listen, when I heard Aquin's talking about spending $60 million on this Stubbs Center, I was like, we spent 14 on this. 60 million. I'm not sure where that number comes from. That's not what our budget is for the safety building, I'll tell you that.
And I'll just add a little bit to that. The bones and the structural components of the Ohio building are still in great shape. It's the finishes, the maintenance items. Are there a few things that need addressed? Yes, but not to the replacement, not to the point of replacement. The bones are still good. The structural stability of the building, all that. We don't really have any issues with that. So I've started some walkthroughs at the safety building, and what I'm seeing so far, it's in line with what we're dealing with at the Ohio building.
What about the exterior? Because those,
So that would be facade, that would be cosmetic, but yeah, there was a point in time where the county invested in a project that kind of held those on, where the Stubbs building didn't do it, and if you look at theirs compared to ours, they're a lot more far gone. But when I was doing an exterior evaluation, I see parts way up high that they need addressed. But again, that's cosmetic, not, it's not structural.
Yeah, we need to see what the city's thinking. I mean, they may be looking at changing the whole outside look of that building, and so we may end up as well, but we're trying to get through the Ohio building first, one at a time.
Okay, the next section is economic development. So a couple things we wanted to point out here on the Canalway development. That's the last year of that higher payment for the corridor development. We're in year 2 of 3 for the Polymer Innovation Hub payments. The Night Creative project, you have seen that project before under a different name, but it's related to the downtown development. And there's also a new one on here for the fairgrounds. Did you want to speak to
The fairgrounds? Yeah, the fairgrounds, as you know, we had a meeting with them, with the sheriff's office, looking at the security situation out at the fairgrounds. I won't go too deep into the weeds on that, but they got a grant to build a brand new entrance facility to go into the fairgrounds, and that's currently under construction. They have quotes for water and sewer. We need to extend water and sewer lines to that. So, and that facility plays a key piece in the security measures. So when it comes time to come to you with more detailed plans, we may be asking for an executive session to cover part of what's going on out there at least. Mike has engaged with them on the sewer side. We're also aware of the city of Talmadge came to us a couple years ago, or came to the Fair Board, who then came to us about the lack of backflow preventers and the risk that poses to the water system in Talmadge. As we got into that need is far more extensive than what was even originally discussed. So this again is a placeholder for a project out at the fairgrounds that would support that new welcoming center that would be going in out there, and would also tie into some of the security things that we in the sheriff's office and EMA, Talmadge and the Fair Board all have had discussions about related to the fairgrounds. So more to come on that one.
And the total for economic development request is the 1.6 million you see there on page 23. So the next group is computer systems and equipment. The one thing I wanted to point out here on page 26 is we have the new Axon lease for the sheriff's office for their body cameras and tasers. They're doing full replacement on that over 5 years, right? Yeah, so that'll be a nice thing for the sheriff's office. We were able to lock in some lower pricing because some of that electronic equipment is getting a lot pricier, a lot faster.
And
than it
council
has.
already approved that
Yes.
contract, right, Bill? Yeah.
Yeah, so we were able to lock in some good pricing for them on that. The laptop refresh that OIT does annually, we appropriate that through our lease fund, and we charge that back to departments over the course of 3 years. And that program has worked out really nicely. So you'll see that come separately. The total for computer systems and equipment is 1.27 million. Next up, we have our vehicles section. On page 30, I did want to point out the bomb truck for the sheriff's office that's on the request. We are going to try to find some grant funding. Public safety and sheriff's office are both on the lookout to try to offset the cost of that bomb truck. It is replacing, I think, a 1999
Oh, we got 3 more years then.
vehicle. So, well, it'd probably take 3 years to build the bomb truck.
Probably.
You know, by the time you order it. So that's vehicles at 1.96 million. Up next is engineer. And Heidi's here to answer any questions about these projects, and she might have a few that she wants to point out specifically, but I know she brings everything to you guys separately and gives you a nice description. The one thing I was gonna point out on page 35 there is our annual roadway resurfacing. The annual program for them is in at 3.6 million. But most of these you'll see come through separately as she brings the legislation to you. But she is here if you have any questions. That's in, for the engineer's office under road and ditch, is in at 6.5 million. Again, still with engineer, we've got regional stormwater. Most of these projects, the names of them should be pretty familiar. I think there were only maybe 1 or 2, Heidi, that were new to this year's program. Most of these projects are continuing from prior years. The total request is 14.4 million. Again, you all, get a good synopsis of these when they come separately in front of you. Up next, we have sanitary sewer, and Mike Benet is here if we have any questions on any of these projects. Is there anything, Mike, that you wanted to specifically point out? I know you bring them forth as well with pretty specific descriptions, but
I would just say quickly that obviously a lot of these projects, they slide back and forth over the capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
It's the timing's always kind of iffy how we can get the design done and get these projects ready to go. But if you've noticed for the past 3 to 4 years, a lot of legislation that has come before council has been for design or unfortunately change orders to design. But now you're starting to see the design work get complete and you're seeing a lot more construction projects coming forward. So that's why it looks a little more robust this year. I do expect some of that to slide, obviously, but again, a lot more construction going on, which is good.
Hey, Mike, one that is scheduled to go forward though this year, which is one of the bigger items on here, is Peninsula. I don't know if you want to give an update on the timeline.
Yeah, so we're still getting some good news about a funding stack for Peninsula. I don't know if you saw, but Congresswoman Sykes got approval for $1.1 million in an appropriation for Peninsula. That's obviously still got to pass the Senate, so there's still a hurdle there. We still have our HO Ohio grant for $500,000. Obviously, we have some ARPA funding left over. We have utilized some of the ARPA funding for design, but we still do have some of that banked as well. And obviously, we're working with some other communities about some potential funding partnerships for the project. The design itself is near 100%. We did receive our MPDS permit for the wastewater treatment plant from the Ohio EPA. Obviously, we have submitted for the permit to install with the Ohio EPA, which is, they're reviewing that now. So we're all systems go. I think the big projects we wanted to get done this year was to get Peninsula started in 2026, complete our Copley Road project, phase 2 of that to Jacoby Road, and then also this Akron-Cleveland Road project that was in front of you this evening that we really do feel like is going to incentivize a lot of economic development. Yeah. We're looking at a 2-year construction timeline once we start.
any other questions for Mr. Benet? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the total request for sanitary sewer is $37.5 million. On the next page in your book, you'll see a summary there on page 47 of the 5-year capital plan in addition to the 2026 request. And the book, you can keep going, flipping down through all these pages and you can see what makes up those numbers. The farther you get out, obviously, until we get there, those numbers are our best guess at the time. So then the other piece of this is the actual legislation that we are requesting for the appropriations tonight and for the 26th to pass is the $39 million. Again, the total request for 2026 is $87 million, but we only need to appropriate $39 million. At this time, the rest of the projects will come back in front of you to appropriate as well as pass the legislation. The pieces, though, that are part of that $39 million, they'll either have already come before you or will come before you as well.
And that 39 is primarily money we have on
Yes.
hand. With the 87, the difference are things where we have OWDA loans or other funds that are coming. So when those projects come, we appropriate them at the same time that we're requesting to
Get the
enter
award.
into the contract to move forward with them.
Question. On the summary, the 26 through 2031, under year 2030, it's 132,500,000, which is dramatically up over 29, which is 59. Is there some big project coming?
I think it might be the bridges
Oh, the bridges.
is when it goes. I think that's the high one. I can double check for you, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, sorry Heidi.
Probably. The
But I
funny,
think
the
it-
funny thing, Heidi doesn't even have any money for that year to pay for any of it.
It could be your fault.
Yeah, you can see Bridges goes from $6 million in 2029 to $51 million in 2030 on the
That's a high-level
on the
bridge.
page.
Yep.
So, sorry Heidi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she definitely doesn't have the money for that.
She's gonna find
No,
out.
but we have the 9 million for design,
Yes.
and GPD is doing the preliminary design now, and they are also going to help us apply for construction money grants. So
We will
very
have a
helpful to have a
shovel-ready-
very professional application to get that $50 million. Fingers crossed.
Shovel-ready project.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just want to add one more thing. You will be seeing a contract come before you for design here in the next couple months for our Fish Creek wastewater treatment plant. It's going to be, we issued an RFP last month. We're in negotiations with that firm right now. It's for a complete redo of that plant. The plant has never had a full rehab. We have one treatment train down right now, and more or less we're going to either do this project now or be mandated by the EPA to do it later. And I'd rather spend the money now than later. So it's going to be an extremely expensive project. As of now, estimates are north of $30 million. And we are also going to be bringing legislation. Our final year of our previous rate increase is this year in 2026. So I will be bringing legislation here in the next month or so to enter into a rate study with the same consultant that we used on the last one, who we issued a full RFP for that too, and they were the most responsive. So, we have to build that future debt service, not for just that project, but for all our projects, and see what that looks like and see what our true cost of service is going to be. So I just want to let you guys know that.
That's all I had. That's it. Couple bucks.
And before we all leave, we have a heads up for the 29th first reading passage request.
Sorry.
that's coming.
26th, we recently completed negotiations with the FOP, so we'll be bringing that in front of you for first reading passage. And both teams worked very hard on it. I think it was a very good result. So looking forward to having myself or Marvin bringing it up before you at that time.